recent polls showed that that a lot of people do not understand that the benefits that they're getting, including the child tax credit, came from the American Rescue Plan. They don't understand the Republicans voted unanimously against it. Assuming that you do get these two bills passed, how are you going to learn from those failures of communication so that people know what you have done? You have to recalibrate the messaging strategy here.
I have a lot to say on this issue, but this is why we have the Democratic Policy and Communications Committee here. So I'll yield to them.
Okay.
Sure. So it'd be great if you could write that. That would be helpful. We do have this tax cut for families with children happening on a recurring basis every month. So middle of this month, the overall majority of American families are going to get another direct deposit into their bank account of cash. And every time this happens, another opportunity for us to message around it. And we have been doing that. We're going to continue to do that. We're also in a really different information ecosystem than we were in even a decade ago, right? You have some folks, QAnon folks, who believe that JFK is going to magically reappear pretty soon. So that is sort of what we're dealing with. And we do, in part, rely on all of you to convey the truth and actual facts. And if you all want to write about this amazing tax cut for families with children that's been really transformative, that'd be really helpful.
I would just add, there's no question. I mean, I think that the premise of your question is correct, right? The $1.9 trillion American Rescue Plan was transformative for American people and for families across our country. We transitioned fairly quickly from delivering on the American Rescue Plan to working on delivering on infrastructure. Because the President and the House Democratic Caucus and the Senate Democratic Caucus are very serious about delivering for the American people. And of course have then transitioned into the work on Build Back Better. Most of the coverage right now and for the better part of the last few months has been on process, which of course makes sense because we are engaged in a complex legislative process to get these bills across the finish line. But that in some respects obfuscates away from the substance of these incredibly important, consequential pieces of legislation that will have lasting impact on the American people and American families. And I suspect that once the process has concluded, you will see our communicators, our best communicators. House Democratic Caucus has some of the best communicators in the country on public policy out there in lockstep talking about the various ways in which these bills, as I said, inure to the benefit of the American people. And ultimately, I believe that the American people will listen.
The pattern over the last 30 years has been that Democratic presidents inherit an economic disaster, and then we have to meet the urgency of the moment to turn things around for the American people. That is what took place when Bill Clinton replaced George H.W. Bush, inheriting a recession that he turned around and created more than 20 million good-paying jobs, and even a budget surplus. That is certainly what took place when President Obama inherited the Great Recession from the previous Republican administration and then turned things around, creating over 14 million good-paying jobs, making sure that more than 20 million Americans who previously had no coverage had high-quality, affordable health care, and of course cutting the deficit from 1.5 trillion to 500 billion, cutting it by $1 trillion. And that is what is happening right now. We inherited a disaster from the previous president. A disaster on COVID and a disaster on the economy. And so, as my colleagues have indicated, we have had to collectively act with urgency because we care about everyday Americans. So we acted with urgency to crush the virus, acting with urgency to provide support to everyday Americans who are struggling. And now we're acting with urgency to supercharge the economy and create opportunity and prosperity in every single zip code, not simply for the wealthy, the well-off, and the well-connected. But we are going to learn from history. And led by the Speaker, the Democratic Policy and Communications Committee, we are going to message with simplicity and repetition about all the good, big, transformative bold things that we have done for the American people? Last question.